Whether you like football or football, we got you covered. That, plus, you'll find out Michael Jordan's new shoes. All this and more on The Rant.
Jeremy, man, wipe off them tears, bro.
Welcome to the second season of The Rant, the only sports show on TV 16 here at Harding University. The show that brings you sports reporting with personality. I'm your host, Jeremy Writt, and my cohorts are my Josh Davidson, Mace Thomas, Brad Bellamy. This is the show where we try to give you our original take, our unique take on different sports issues. First segment we have is called Bonus or Bogus. This week we're talking about the NFL's new schedule. They had to change things all around after the disaster on September 11th. We're talking about whether we think that's a good thing, the new schedule, anything about that, whether that's the new site, the new date, pushing it back. We're going to cover all the angles. Josh, you're up first.
Well, Jeremy, first of all, it's sad that we even have to be discussing this. It's sad that all this has happened to our nation, and because of that, we've got to talk about these things. It's a definite bogus. First of all, 12 teams could be playing here, but now there's only going to be 8, which would eliminate the wild card. What else can I say about that? There's nothing else to say. It's bogus. It's bogus that had to happen. It's bogus that they're even having to consider it. So the question is, what do you do now? Do you move the games? Do you extend the season so that all 12 teams can be in the playoffs, so that we can have a wild card? What do you do? If you're asking me, Jeremy and fellas, if you're asking me if it's a bonus or a bogus, that we even have to consider this, yes, definite bogus. You can chalk one up for the bogus meter there on the bogus board. You like that, don't you? They're going to get me for that, folks. They're going to get me. Please, help me.
All right, Mace, what do you think?
Moving on to the issue at hand here. We're talking about removing the games back a whole week. Do I think that's a bogus or a bonus? Of course it's a bonus, because we're talking about losing a potential wild card game. I'm sorry, folks, but every playoff game is crunk. Crunk, C-R-O-N-K, crunk. That's what I'm talking about. Each game gets hyped. There's a lot of people there. The attendance just skyrockets during playoff time, and I don't think that we should skip any game at all. So play the Super Bowl on February 3rd. It'll be a little weird because it's not on the usual January 27th date, but of course Super Bowl will go on. It will be a lot of fun. Still can wreck it on February the 3rd or March the 3rd, whichever they decide to go to. I think that it's definite bogus. Fellas?
Well, there you have it, folks. So far we're tied, 1 bogus, 1 bonus. See how it ends up after the break.
Brian came to school and he wanted to come to school. Brian just needed a friend, so we paired him with a community leader. This man, taking his time, meant more than anything.
Point a kid in the right direction. This is General Colin Powell of America's Promise. Call us and help keep America's Promise.
Thanks for staying with us, folks. We got a bogus from Josh, a bonus from Mace.
A bonus.
Brad.
That's what that was, a bonus, not a bogus.
Yeah.
No. Despite what he said at the end, it was a bonus.
Leave me alone, leave me alone.
Brad, what do you think it is?
Well, I think it was definitely a bogus by Paul Tagliabue in the beginning. I think that they should have decided what they were going to do, what plan they were going to have in place before they decided to cancel last week's games. But now that that's over and done with, they can't really take that decision back. I tend to go with the feelings of Mike Shanahan. He said that, yes, have a 12-team playoff system, but start the games on the original weekend after the 7th weekend. So it would, I guess, the 12th and 13th or 13th and 14th. And they would play the first round of wild card games on that Saturday. Then the divisional playoffs would be played that Wednesday night. So that means that the next weekend they have the championship games, and then the following weekend is the Super Bowl, which means it's still in New Orleans on the same date. And, I mean, the wild card teams can't complain because you're either in the playoffs or you're not. And I think they still would make the money if they did it this way. So I think it's a bonus as far as Mike Shanahan's situation, but a bogus as far as the NFL canceling last week's games.
Brad adds a bonugabus to Josh's bogus and Mace's bonus. Guess that leaves it up to me. I have 4 letters for you folks. NADA, NADA, National Automobile Dealers Association. They get the bogus, definitely. The NFL and Paul Tagliabue tried to, I guess, talk to them, see about them moving the date for their little car convention that's going to be also held in the Superdome in the week following the Super Bowl. That's February 3rd. They wouldn't do it. They call themselves football fans and loyal to the NFL, but they said it just wasn't possible to move their convention because it's planned 10 years ahead of time. Well, you know what? The Super Bowl is the biggest sports event in the United States, in the world, the biggest single event. You know, I know they have the Olympics and, you know, the World Series and things like that, but Super Bowl is one day. That's the biggest single event. If they can change the date for their event and still have it be successful, you can change your little car show. I mean, any parking lot in the United States, you guys can bring out your little hoopties and play your music and show off your little chrome wheels. It doesn't matter. America wants to see football. They want to see it in the Super Bowl. They want to see it in the Superdome in New Orleans on February 3rd. Get your little grease monkeys need to get your heads from out of the hood and kowtow to the man that actually has the power, the NFL, Paul Tagliabue. Move it back. Give them the Superdome. I say NADA gets nada love from me. Bogus for you guys. So that's 2 boguses, a bonus, and a bonugabus.
Sure.
So what do you think about the recent season change?
The recent season change, as in from the schedule change, moving
Yeah.
it back? I think it's a good idea to change from just to, call week 3, I call that week 2, and move week 2 back to January 5th through the 7th. But their hands were tied there. They had to do something. I don't think that it would have been a good idea to have a 15-game season because the Chargers had a bye week that week, and so they would already be playing all their 16 games. So go ahead and move the season back. I kind of like Shanahan's plan, too, to do it in the midweek. Whatever it takes now that NADA is not being cooperative at all, I think they have to come up with something. And moving it back, I think they owe it to the city of New Orleans to keep it in that city.
Well, you mind, Mace?
Go ahead, man.
I think the problem with that, though, as far as moving it back a week, is all the hotel cancellations and everything else. I mean, they're going to lose so much money by the fact that, they're going to have to cancel hotel reservations, book new hotel reservations. It's going to be a lot of chaos. So I feel that you can't really blame this on NADA because they already have their stuff planned. I think it's more the NFL's fault for canceling last week's games. I know it was a PR move and they kind of needed to do it, but they should have already had a plan in place.
What do you think is going to make more money for the city of New Orleans? The Super Bowl or a car show?
Well, the Super Bowl is going to make more money for the city of New Orleans, of course.
Well, just like Paul Tagliabue said earlier this week, he said that we're hopeful of doing the Super Bowl in New Orleans, but we have some other alternatives that would enable us to play the Super Bowl if it became necessary in Los Angeles or Miami or Tampa. So the deal is right here. He says also that they'll be working very hard to get those issues resolved this week if it's possible. No promises. So as you can see, Tagliabue really wants to play. He wants to have the Super Bowl in New Orleans, and I think that it'll be an excellent idea to create a lot of revenue for them. And I'm with Jeremy on the fact that nada. Who cares? It's not a big deal. Work on your car some other time. Come on, for real. They done took this Tim Allen style too far. They need to the Super Bowl is important.
The other one possible situation they had was just put both championship games for the first time, have it on a neutral site, and put them both in New Orleans on the day the Super Bowl was going to be, and then move the Super Bowl to, like you said, Miami, Tampa, or L.A. Mm-hmm. That might not be a bad idea. I don't know. Maybe the teams might not get as many fans there because they're not playing their home sites, but it's still, New Orleans still gets paid, and then another city's going to get paid too.
What do you think about that, Josh, the neutral site for the championship games?
Well, I think Brad has a very valid point. Not enough fans getting there. First of all, it's easier to go down the road, next door, or, down the street to where you live and go to a game. It's easier to do that. than it is to, say, get on an airplane and fly all the way somewhere, get in a car and drive 8 hours to get somewhere. So Brad has a very valid point there, and I agree. It's a bogus. That's the bottom line. It shouldn't have to be this way. Just move the season, extend the season, do something. But, boy, you're letting them win. I mean, that's the bottom line. I feel like we're changing our lifestyle for these people who have come over and tried to wreck on us, and now we're letting it come as far down as our entertainment, and that's not right. So I think that we should, first of all, tell NADA they need to get out and find somewhere else. They could probably go hold it in the Benson, because I know there's not going to be a bunch of people coming around. It's a no-brainer, Jeremy. It's a no-brainer.
Josh, I think the Benson is actually the best idea you've come up with, because, I mean, only thing they've had in there that was any good so far is the Patty Loveless concert, and we know how whack that was. Anyway,
Don't forget Brian White.
as you were talking about, we don't even want to talk about him. But as we were saying about the neutral site for the conference championships, that takes away the motivation for the teams. I mean, they work hard all season so they can get home field advantage throughout the playoffs. There's no reason that they should have to travel somewhere else. They should have to lose their home field advantage because Osama bin Laden and company wanted to play, I don't know, war, because they're not ready for the real thing. But we'll keep it to sports. Anyway, we've talked long enough about this. We're going to go to commercial, but when we come back, we'll have my interview with Coach Greg Harris. Stay with us.
Mr. and Mrs. Jones, Sally's having some behavioral problems.
I guess that reward system isn't working.
Well, the timeouts weren't either.
You know, parents do find that timeouts aren't...
See?
Well, you're just too lenient.
Well, you're too strict.
No, you are.
No, you are.
No, you are.
No, you are.
When adults don't have the answers, they can feel as frustrated as kids. ConnectForKids.org has thousands of resources for helping kids in your community.
You're too strict. You're too
ConnectForKids.org, guidance for grown-ups.
Welcome to this edition of the Rant Scope. I'm here with head coach Greg Harris, coach of the men's and women's soccer teams here at Harding University. Now, Mr. Harris, you're a newcomer to the Harding community. Yeah. Who is Greg Harris? There's a lot of people out there who don't know who you are. Who's Greg Harris?
Well, I am. I'm of course, the new coach here, and I'm been here. I'm not unfamiliar to these parts. I was at Harding for 5 years, or was at Harding for 2 years of grad school, and lived here in Searcy for 3 years. So. You know, I'm a Christian man who was raised in a Christian family. I have a large soccer background that extends from my time in growing up in South Florida as a young child and playing soccer since the age of 8. Growing up in the church, you know, since I was about 5, 6 years old. You know, my soccer background extends pretty far. Playing club soccer from the time I was young all the way up until playing college ball for 4 years at Queens College in Charlotte, North Carolina. So, you know, that's a little bit about my background.
Now, you say you grew up in South Florida. That's football country, and you look like you can play defensive end. What made you choose soccer?
Well, I actually was a wide receiver in high school.
Okay.
Got a couple scholarship offers, and I turned them down. Just didn't feel like I didn't like getting hit. And I like doing the hitting, and they would never put me on defense, so I quit playing soccer or football when I was senior year in high school. After my senior year, that was it. I had enough of football. I have a younger brother, though. He was with the Miami Dolphins recently, so you know, football runs deep in the family too. Football is a love, but soccer is actually is our first love. Even with my brother, who's playing professional football, soccer is his first love. So soccer is something that we just all grew up doing, and that was football was about 90 pounds ago too. So that was I was a little bit lighter then in my soccer days and my football days. So
I can understand that. Soccer was also, a lot of people don't know, soccer was my first sport, but
right.
That's a whole nother life. Now, as far as coaching goes,
okay.
Who would you say has most influenced your coaching style, or how would you describe your coaching style first?
I describe it as I try to be a teacher, try to teach the guys and the girls as much as possible. I try to be, I'm a marriage and family therapist too. For those people who don't know, I'm actually right now writing my dissertation for my doctorate in marriage and family therapy. So, being a therapist runs deep into my coaching background too, because I like to take people and say, hey, what's going on? What's happening? What do we need to do differently? You know, are we getting the job done? Or if we're not getting the job done, what do we need to do? So I try to be there as much as possible to kind of teach. I'm almost in some ways a consultant also on the field. I try to be laid back. That's not always possible. You know, my feelings and my emotions run deep when it comes to soccer. I love it, and so I get really involved into the game. So a lot of times I will get emotional, but it's all just for the love of the game.
Now, you have a large task on your hands. You have to coach not one but two teams, men's and women's. How do you change your coaching style, or do you change your coaching style at all when you're coaching the men's team and then the women's team?
Right. I'm learning. That's something that I'm getting adjusted to, actually. The men is, you know, they're a little bit, you know, I can be a little bit harder on them, and and it's not that I'm not hard on the women. I think there's just certain ways to do it, certain ways to learn, not just men and women, but people. You know, you need to learn how can you make this person most effective, and what way can I approach this person so that they can be more effective as a player and as a person. So I think more importantly sometimes than just learning the guys team and learning how to coach the girls team, it's learning how to work with this person, learn how to work with, you know, what it boils down to, 44 people, and learn how can I work with each and every one of them, and what are their tendencies, what are their strong points, how do they like to be coached. You know, is this someone that you can get on, and do you kind of yell at them sometimes, or do you have to be a little bit more laid back with this person? So a lot of it depends on that.
Okay. Now, I talked to Coach Harnden this morning before the interview, and he says a lot of times you'll be watching the games or whatever, and someone will score a goal, and he said you'll kind of make a comment on the sideline, I could have stopped that. You know, tell us a little bit about your playing background, and you know. Did you get any awards to back up those boastings you make on the sidelines, or is that just?
Well, we set a national shutout record for NCAA division, all divisions actually.
By we you mean?
There was me and another goalkeeper named Joe Mazzo from Long Island, New York. Okay. I was starting, play the first half, and Joe Mazzo played the second half, and Joe got scored on only 2 times all year, and I got scored on only 2 times all year. So we set. We had 13 shutouts all year long, so I'm a little, I get a little cocky when it comes to my playing experience. I don't even like to get scored on out here. Every so often I'll throw on the gear and
two of your girls
two
there.
of my players there, they'll be sitting the bench next game. But you know, I love the game, and when I'm out there, when I'm between the lines playing, I don't like to lose, and that's just, you know, I think that's just something that comes with, I think that's a South Florida attitude too. It's just real kind of a cocky type of attitude. We grew up watching University of Miami football down there.
Go Canes?
Yeah, go Canes, and you know, so it just runs deep with that.
Got a question.
Yes.
Do you think you still have it? Now, I played fullback when I played soccer. No scoring ability whatsoever. But we got a camera out here. We got some soccer balls out here. Actually, you know what? I'm going to upgrade it. We got young Thomas out here now. He has a little bit of scoring ability on it. Do you think you can stop a shot from Thomas from outside the box?
Well, see, this is Thomas is new to the university and everything. I don't want to ruin the rest of his years here at Harding by making him look bad on camera. He may, you know, be looking for a young girl here and may have, you know, a girlfriend out here already, and I wouldn't want her to not, you know, date him anymore, not want to be his friend anymore because I made him look so bad in front of the camera. So I will turn down that offer for his sake right now. But if he's willing to try it, we can take the camera out there now.
What do you say, Thomas?
Let's go.
All right, folks, we're going to see if Coach Greg Harris still has it, if he has the skills to back up the boast. Here we are, folks. Young Thomas Ritchie versus head coach Greg Harris. Thomas hailing from Remington, Virginia. Coach Harris hailing from South Florida. Thomas is set up just outside the penalty box. We'll see if he can make the shot. Here's the approach. He shoots. And it's high all the way into the intramural softball field. So Coach Harris, the first attempt, not very hard for Coach Harris. He shoots another one right at him. Had a little trouble with it off the bat, but he corrals it. So Coach Harris, living up to his boast, he still has the skills. We'll be back with the rest of the show after these messages.
Stay tuned, sports fans. Coming up next is Scott Smith with Rant Down the Line. He's big, he's got red hair, and he'll tell you why Jordan's strapping up his shoes again.
What's wrong, Mrs. Jenkins? Come on, you can tell me.
Well, there's no funding for the new reading program, and I've tried everything. It's just not fair.
Where can adults go for ideas when they feel as frustrated as kids? ConnectForKids.org, guidance for grown-ups.
Welcome to Rant Down the Line. I'm Scott Smith. Michael Jordan has announced his return to the game of basketball. Yeah, that's right. I didn't stutter. And no, this is not a 4-year delay in syndication. The legend himself is coming back once again to put on the sneakers. Although this time it's not the Air Jordans, it's a special orthopedic shoe made especially for the elderly. Michael, either stay with it or give it up. You're toying with my emotions, and that's just not cool. I have no doubt he could take the Wizards to victory. But by undergoing this accomplishment, quote unquote, you've also added another title to your repertoire, right next to the best basketball player ever, the best quitter ever. You should give some tips to Darryl Strawberry. Speaking of people that defy age, Joe Paterno, will be celebrating his 114th birthday this week. Joe, let's face it, you're no longer a powerhouse. Other teams are not scared of you, and your fan base is now made up of all females who just like your team colors. It's times like this that people actually start questioning the very fabric that makes up your team. Questions like, what is a Nittany Lion? And is it different than a regular lion? Does it possess special powers that a regular lion doesn't have? See, a few years back, people didn't ask you those questions because you were winning. Let's hope Tennessee or South Carolina don't start losing anytime soon. I nominate that Nittany Lion change their name to the Nittany Cryans because they're 1-1 and they still have 8 more embarrassing games to play. All right, the day that you would hear me say Fresno State is a powerhouse, I thought would never come, and it won't. But they are giving some credibility to the WAC, a conference that has been known to struggle against high school teams. They are slowly improving. And in the NFL this week, players and fans were seen wearing the commemorative NYPD hats on behalf of the New York Police Department and the many heroes that laid their lives down to save others this past week. And in a related story, Ray Lewis of the Baltimore Ravens was seen running from Coach Bill Belichick, screaming out his innocence and pleading for a fair trial. Now, Ray, just listen, buddy. It's all just a bad dream. They're not all cops coming to get you. You're safe. It's okay. But, Ray, here's the worst part about the dream. You got beat by the Cincinnati Bengals. It's a reality much too frightening to deal with, I understand. And in the biggest shame of this week, it's so long to the NFL replacement refs, and it's welcome back. You money-hungry, think you're important, like people come to watch you trying to damage the game of football to improve your own greedy bank accounts, league refs. Yes, we as fans, fan of sports, we already have to worry about whether or not players will go on strike because they're only getting $10 million when what they really wanted was $15 million, and we don't really want to hear it from you. So just, shut your little peepers and be happy with that you get to be involved in the greatest sport on earth. Because me personally, I would love to ref. I'd love to be in the NFL and ref, and I would just be content with the $3.50 an hour that Jeremy Writt makes working at Chick-fil-A. And that's it for the Rant Down the Line. I'm Scott Smith.
All right. Well, if you thought that was funny, you won't believe what some people told Scott in the Student Center and around campus. Coming up next, Sports IQ. What is a juke? Stay with us.
Brian came to school and he wanted to come to school. Brian just needed a friend, so we paired him with a community leader. This man, taking his time, meant more than anything.
Point a kid in the right direction. This is General Colin Powell of America's Promise. Call us and help keep America's Promise.
And welcome back here in the studio with Nicole Reese, our special guest on the Sports IQ segment of our show. Nicole, the question is, what is a juke? Now, be thinking about that, and while you're thinking about that, we'll find out what our very own Scott Smith found out in the Student Center that other people thought was a juke.
In basketball, what is a juke?
I have no idea.
When someone stuffs you.
Okay, now what does stuff mean?
It's when, you know, you're going up for a shot and they like...
So it's like, and that's a stuff, which is also a juke. All right, thank you.
Isn't that right?
That's plenty good. Good. Thank you. In basketball, what is a juke?
A juke is basically a fake maneuver where you lean into a movement and then you go the other way.
Would you care to demonstrate a juke for us?
No thanks.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm sure.
Okay, well, I think that was actually the correct Webster definition of juke. Thank you, Nathan.
No problem.
What do you think a juke is?
The only thing I think of when I hear juke is box, like jukebox, or like music.
Nice. That's what it is. Jukebox. In basketball, they bring the jukebox out on the court, and everybody just dances. It's a great time. Thanks. In basketball, what is a juke?
A juke would have to be when a player makes a comment and they think it's funny, and instead of calling it a joke, they call it a juke.
A juke is when you push somebody really hard. No? I can't even think to know.
She can't even think to know. That's
Don't let this be on TV.
that's like philosophic words, would you say? Yes. All right, thank you. Thank you for your time. That's
All right, well, those were some interesting answers. Nicole, what is a juke?
A juke. Well, I'm not really sure, but can I take a guess?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. If I had to guess what a juke was, I would say maybe like a play, an illegal play called on somebody.
Okay, sounds like a couple of our answers. That's a good guess, but really what a juke is, it's sort of slang, so I don't blame you for not getting it. When somebody gets shook, you know, when somebody's in front of you, you cross them over, you bring it up around your head or something, that's a juke.
Okay.
Anyway, hey, you did a good job, Nicole. If you would do a good job like Nicole, you can email us at therant16@hotmail.com, and you could be in this very studio, sitting right where Nicole's sitting, and you can answer the Sports IQ question. Don't go away. The final thoughts are next.
Mr. and Mrs. Jones, Sally's having some behavioral problems.
I guess that reward system isn't working.
Well, the timeouts weren't either.
You know, parents do find that timeouts aren't...
See?
Well, you're just too lenient.
Well, you're too strict.
No, you are.
Oh, you are.
No, you are.
No, you are.
When adults don't have the answers, they can feel as frustrated as kids. ConnectForKids.org has thousands of resources for helping kids in your community. ConnectForKids.org, guidance for grown-ups.
Jukes, orthopedic shoes, Coach Harrison football, all parts of the first show of the second season for The Rant. I would ask what these guys think, but I really don't care. I care what the viewer at home thinks. So email us at therant16@hotmail.com. Thank you for watching this week's show. For Jeremy Writt, Mace Thompson, Josh Davidson, I'm Brad Bellamy. Catch us next week. Same time, same channel.
Night, everybody.